Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm fangirled out on you right now. But obviously, what are you most excited about in your life right now? Yeah.
I met a boy and I'm in love.
Oh, you're the 8th grader now.
I'm the 8th grader now.
Is he with you? Oh my gosh, you've done New Orleans together. Yeah. New Orleans when you're in love is fun. I actually honeymooned here. It didn't last, but I'm sure yours will.
I gotta tell you, like, Newark Airport is fun when you're in love. Like, everything's fun when you're in love. It's great.
Newark Airport's bad. You're absolutely right. So, going back to Big Magic, we've all almost made this our own. We're almost like in a Big Magic book club right now. So the whole idea of how ideas come to you, and also the authenticity of what you can bring to a new idea. I think in our group right now, we let a lot of those pass us by because we're busy. Yeah. How do you know when an idea is meant for you?
Okay. Couple things. One is that the idea won't leave you. That's I trust the ones that don't go away. Lots of ideas kind of flirt, but there are ideas that just, the one that like just lingers and lingers and lingers for years sometimes. I also trust, I call my book Big Magic. I actually truly believe in a kind of magical thinking when it comes to living. I also trust that when the pileup of coincidences and synchronicity start to look like there's billboards on the highway saying, do this, that's something that I trust as well, where there's like some coincidental person who you meet who says something that's exactly what you were thinking about with this idea 2 weeks ago. These are not coincidences. These are clues. These are clues being scattered like birdseed in front of you as you go. Those are the ideas that you should pay attention to.
This summit happened that way. And there's so many, I feel like it was co-created by everyone in this room. And
I don't doubt that.
You know what I mean? It was just it was a massive thing, and it's turned out to be just an amazing event. I'm really appreciative to you to be here. When you get into an occupation that maybe doesn't really inspire a ton of creativity, do you think you can block yourself off from seeing it, or hearing it when it comes, just from being so busy and so in the minutia?
I'm going to be very honest. I've never met that occupation. What occupation would that be that would make a human being not be able to be creative?
Well, you're absolutely right. There shouldn't be one. Exactly.
Really. One of the most inspiring human beings I've ever met in my entire life was my accountant. Who passed away a few years ago, this guy named Ernie Marshall, who approached accounting like Da Vinci approaching the workshop. He was passionate about the relationships that he had with people, and he was passionate about, again, to me, creativity is not so much about what you're making, but how you're living, a way of being, the way that he interacted with his clients, the way that he interacted, because what is accounting except daily interaction with human beings? And the kindness that he showed toward people, the compassion that he lived with, the recognition that there's no subject on the earth that makes people feel more vulnerable and terrified than money. And the grace that he held his people in, and the way that he walked them from danger into safety with money. He took it was a mission for him. And accountant is literally like a punchline for a boring person. Right? It is, but it's not the case if you live your life in a creative and open and engaged manner. Every single person in this room, you're engaging you're having this incredible honor every single day of meeting another human being. A phenomenon of energy sitting in front of you with hopes and dreams and emotions and lives, and you're interacting with them. What could not be creative about that? If only to practice compassion, which is a creative act because of what it generates. So I would just say, think bigger. I feel like we have this very limited definition in our society about what creative is, and it starts at a crushingly early age. Every single person in this room is born creative. Every child is born creative. It is our natural instinct. There was never a 4-year-old boy that you dumped a pile of Legos in front of who was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it, I don't know. I'm just not very creative. You put crayons in front of a child and they just start, and they're just doing this instinctively because they want to, and they're not saying, you know what, I feel like I used to be really creative, but like now that I'm 3, I don't, my life has gotten more serious. We're born with the instinct to do all of this stuff, and it kind of gets beaten out of you a lot of times in the school system. I guarantee that if I were to ask every single one of you at what age you found out that you weren't good at singing, dancing, acting, drawing, you would be able to tell me. You'd be able to tell me who told you, because you've probably got a wound from it. It was probably a teacher or another student. And so you start shutting down all these aspects of you, but they're not shut down permanently. It's your natural inheritance. You can open this stuff back up again. There's lots of ways to do it.
We have some tap dancers here right now, right? We do. There are a few of them who all have taken up tap, and they ended up going to finding each other and go into something together. It was actually kind of interesting. So you're right. There's no time that the opportunity to do something fun is over.
Or to be human.
Right.
That's it. Like, it doesn't, again, tap dancing is great. You also don't have to do that, right? If there's a part of you that's like, oh dear God, please don't make me go to tap dancing. You don't have to. You don't have to. But it's about, but again, for me, what creative living is about being engaged and remembering that the action is here. The action is here right now in this moment with whoever has been placed in front of you. The action is not someplace else in somebody else's life, in some other path that you might have taken. My friend Rob Bell, who's this great minister, he's always encouraging people to write on little Post-it notes and put all over their lives and their house. The action is here. Your life is happening right now. The cigarette break, where you go out, and the coffee break where you're in the break room and you're sitting down next to somebody that you don't know, and they say to you, God, I had such a horrible weekend, and you think, dear God, the last thing I want to hear is about this person's horrible weekend. You could shut that off, or you could be like, well, what would happen if I actually did want to hear about this person's weekend? Like, what would happen if I put down my phone and I turned to this human being next to me and I said, what happened? Like, what might occur in that moment? That's a creative act. So for me, it's less about, you see what I'm saying about the broadness of human engagement? I don't think there's anything more creative that you could do than that.
And it's so easy to shut down.
Oh my God,
I did a year-long road trip too. Well, actually I did 2. But there is a point when you're on the road that you don't even want to leave wherever you are. Yeah. And I think that continuing to push yourself is so hard to do. And you're talking about that voice when you were standing behind the man. It was like, I don't want to talk to this person. I can let it go. Yeah. That's, to me, that finding that, losing the fear. Is there a trick that you have to pushing yourself to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable?
And the trick is I ask myself, what is the alternative? And the alternative sucks.
Yeah.
The alternative is always to do nothing. The alternative is to do nothing, to try nothing, to remain safe. And there's no safety in that ultimately because it's a slow death. And so that's the only, I will tell you that the only thing that's ever gotten me through writing all of the 9 books that I've written is that when I reach that impasse where I think, this is terrible, I'm a fraud, I can't do this, I'm bored, this is awful, then I say to myself, what is your alternative? And the alternative is to do nothing. You can just do nothing. You just do nothing. Well, you've tried that.
Right.
You've tried that. And I know what nothing feels like. It feels like nothing. And that, to me, is unsustainable. So that tends to motivate me.
I feel like I'm having a one-on-one experience right now.
I do too.
I know. So your book, you just finished one, right?
I did, yeah.
How does that feel? How does it feel to finish an Elizabeth Gilbert book?
To finish an Elizabeth Gilbert book? I don't know, because I've never finished another kind, so I don't know. I don't know exactly, but it's such a lovely feeling. I mean, I have to say that I like what I do. I think that what I do is interesting, and so finishing it feels really good, but not as good as doing it. There are authors who will say, like, I hate writing, but I love having written. That's a very common thing that people will say. I hate the process, but I love the finished product. And I always think, well, that means you have like one good day every 4 years. Like if you only like a thing when it's done, you're making your possibilities for joy very narrow, because it's not done very often. And often when it's done, you're like, it's not as good as I wanted it to be, or it's not, So I think it's a much more interesting way to live, to like the strange puzzle of putting a thing together, and putting on a show. Like I actually like doing it. I like getting up. I mean, it also takes me years to kind of get the mojo going to write a book. And this book especially it's about New York City showgirls in the 1940s. The book is called City of Girls, and it's a novel. I've been wanting for years to write a novel about women who are promiscuous, whose lives are not destroyed by their promiscuity. I wanted to write a book about like women who go out and have a really good time and create a lot of trouble and look back on it. It's told from the voice of a woman who's in her 90s, and she's looking back at her wild youth and talking about when she was young and pretty and crazy. And so it was fun to write for that reason, because I got to write a lot of very fun, sexy scenes. It was good. So maybe that's why.
Especially now that you're in love.
Well, I wasn't as I was writing it.
Really?
I was actually.
So this is new.
This is new. I was actually in grief, and one of the ways that I was pulling myself through my grief was to write about joy, and to go in the opposite direction. So, no, I was writing hot, super steamy sex scenes and sleeping with my dog every night. Once again, creative living, like make something that is the opposite of what's happening in your life. You can, that's what, look, there's only two limitless things in the universe. One is the universe itself, and the other is human imagination. Mine, yours, everybody's. There's literally no limit to what you can imagine. And so yeah, I was alone, and I was lonely, and I was sad, and I wrote a book about sex and romance and joy out of that space, because I may have been sleeping alone in a bed, but I have a very rich imagination, as do you all. We're all. You can make up a lot in your life just right here.
A lot of these women work with guests. They're in hospitality, so they interact with people on a pretty regular basis. I think one of the things that's inspiring from this is how to create that kind of connection, life meeting life, with the guest. Because if the Maya Angelou, we've been using that quote internally quite a bit for this show, because we really, we're like, Amy, they don't care what you say, what you know. They care about how you make them feel, and it's just been kind of a theme here. But I think it's true in the industry anyway.
I'm going to give you a weird little sociological, psychological trick that I learned from my friend Martha Beck. Does everybody or anybody know who Martha Beck? Are some Martha Beck fans here? Okay. For those of you who don't, get on the Martha Beck train. Look up her name. She is she's Oprah Winfrey's life coach. So if you want to talk to, she's the person who Oprah goes to when Oprah's like, I don't know what direction to take. So she's great. She's really, really great. But she was telling me about a certain study, and this is also just a very fun thing to do, whether it even works or not. There's such a thing called synapse mirroring that happens with humans because we're tribal and because we're monkeys, basically, and because we are very attuned to each other's emotional states. What I'm thinking when I'm sitting here talking to you will actually affect what you think of me. So if I'm sitting here thinking, I hate myself, my life is horrible, no matter what I'm talking, there's something weird emanating out of me that you're going to catch. So there's this thing that you can do, and you know that we have a dialogue that we're doing, and then we have the thing that we're actually thinking.
The
right?
two.
The split. Like the split screen, like when I was at the restaurant and I was saying, I'm so happy for the hospitality of the German people, and the actual thing that I was thinking. And sometimes some of us have 3 or 4 dialogues going and run mind. It's a nut house in there in all of our minds. So you're going to be, whatever conversation you're having with somebody, you're going to be having another conversation in the back of your head anyway. So here's what you do. Take the one that's in the back of your head and turn it into this. And this is the mantra. And the mantra goes like this. I like you and you like me. I like you and you like me.
Elizabeth Gilbert likes me.
Do you see like I like you and you like me. I like you, and you just have that going in your head. It is so incredibly effective where the person is sort of like, I don't know why, but I like you. And it puts them at ease, and it also kind of it warms you toward them, because you're also saying, I like you and you like me. Martha did this when she was on an 8-hour deposition for a lawsuit, and she had 5 lawyers grilling her, and she spent the entire deposition thinking, I like you and you like me. I like you and you like me. Every single time they'd ask her a question, and it disarmed them so completely that they couldn't attack her anymore. It kind of created this force field around her. And she said it was really weird at the end of the deposition. They were like, what are you doing for lunch? Where are you going? Like, these are these guys who were supposed to be her adversaries. So if just try it if you're having trouble with difficult people. And at the very least, it's a more interesting dialogue to be having than I hate you, you hate me. Which, doesn't lead you to such fascinating places.
So we're going to have a reception in the foyer again for Ray Sloan Cox and Claire's mom, Bert, and Sheila Hodges. And we hope that you will join us for a bit. We do have books, signed books. She has signed books for us, pre-signed books for us, and they're in the foyer too. Thank you so much for being here.
Do we have time for me to ask you what you're most excited about in your life right now? You don't think I'm not going to ask you that?
Well, I know, right? Actually, I'm starting a new business. I am. I can't totally say. But anyway, I'm really excited about it. It's something that there's been a need in our industry for a long time that I've been working really hard on, trying to find the thing that I can do, like you said, that brings joy, and I think I found it.
I like what just happened to your face when you were talking about
I'm so excited.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth Gilbert, everyone.